It only took 2.5 years since the purchase of my Xbox Series X to start paying back on its investment, as this November has seen more than one great RPG hit Game Pass. Welcome to the Thirsty Mage, a video game podcast focusing on RPGs and positivity. I'm David Lloyd, and here with my co-host, author of the recently released book, A Game in the Life, Jordan Rudick.
And here's my 30 seconds to get my plugs in, so I don't have to keep talking about the book all episode, because we already did that. We just recorded an episode on A Game in the Life last week, so if you haven't checked that out, there is a podcast episode of The Thirsty Mage on our feed, all about kind of the genesis of the book, how it came about, and David and I doing some reminiscing as well. The book is available now in ebook form, all over the place, but it has recently been added to Amazon and Google Play Books, so you can check it out there as well. Physical book still date to be announced soon.
Cool. Yeah, and you can go to thethirstymage.com, and your book link is prominently in the center for those trying to figure out, and that link pretty much sends you to all the versions of it. So
yeah, it gives you all the options that are available right now. That's right.
Yep. But yes, this episode is devoted to, we're taking a look at what has transpired in November. It was a lot busier than going into November. I really didn't think it was going to be that busy of a month, but as always, things take a turn quickly, especially when you start discovering some RPGs you weren't expecting to play and having a good time. We're going to take a quick peek at December, and then we're going to start some preliminary Game of the Year discussions. So
yeah, I mean, November's funny because you've got Black Friday, and I think that this one, because there were so many big releases spread out through the year, not everything there wasn't this big build up to November like we've seen in previous years, where everyone's kind of waiting to see what's coming in October, November. This year was kind of like, okay, we know there's going to be a few more good games those months, but we're still playing Baldur's Gate 3. We're still playing, Octopath Traveler 2. We're still playing games from earlier in the year. We're kind of getting to those finally, that maybe the November releases were a little bit more muted. So it's kind of tricky. Even Wonder was October. And so you still had people playing Mario Wonder and then maybe skipping out on one of the November releases. So it was just that happens in a year filled with good games, that some of the normally big months maybe look a little bit more subdued in comparison.
Man, we had a lot of decent games that came out in November. A few that we're devoting actual full episodes to, like In Stars in Time. We have an upcoming episode on that one. Plus, in the new year, we'll be talking to the developer of that game.
Mm-hmm.
We also have an episode planned for Star Ocean Second Story. I know my playthrough got hijacked by a couple games, but I'm still chipping away at that.
I want to go back to that as soon as I'm done Mario RPG, because that was the game. Mario RPG was the game that made me drop Star Ocean, just because I wanted to play Mario RPG at launch with everybody else. And Star Ocean, I kind of got to a point in the game where I thought it is reasonable to jump here and I can come back and it should be fine. So yeah, we'll definitely do a full episode on that too.
Mm-hmm. And we are going to do a full episode, I'm sure, at some point on Super Mario RPG. But why don't we start off with that's probably the biggest the game to come out in this November. So why don't you, Jordan, of the two of us, you're the only one playing it. So you have to tell me how faithful and how well is it playing out on Switch.
Yeah, I think I'm going to come off sounding more negative than I am, just because I already loved this game going in. So there's a lot of reverence kind of behind the scenes, I guess. It is painfully faithful, like faithful to a fault, maybe. Like, yeah, this is probably the definitive version of the game. Although they have changed some of the names of the bosses or characters, so if that's something that kind of ticks you off, you might not like that aspect of it. But they've added a new difficulty mode. They've changed the combat mechanics a little bit. There's a meter that builds up that allows you to store up like a super attack that you can take into boss fights. When you do timed attacks really well, you not only build up a combo meter that makes future attacks and defenses more effective, but it also allows you to do damage to multiple enemies. So you might be targeting one, but maybe you do a hammer attack on them with Mario really well, and then a wave kind of reverberates out from your target and hits all the other enemies on the field. So it's kind of fun to maybe take some of the kind of basic attacks and just make them a little bit more effective that way. I've gotten quite far. I'm already at returning to Bowser's Keep, which is the last kind of 10-20% of the game. I'm going to go back and probably complete a few more of the side objectives and stuff like that. But yeah, it looks beautiful. I think it's fantastic from a visual standpoint. I think the remixed music or remastered music is awesome. I was a little bit worried about like, oh no, I like my original one. It's so good. There's no need. You don't need to change it. I haven't switched back. I haven't. I've been kind of checking out all the new music. I love it. I think it's great. I'm going to be listening to that just as much as I listen to the original versions of the soundtrack. I don't know if this is experience talking. This game is really easy. Like it is dead easy. Even on just the normal difficulty, you would never need to scale it down to the story mode one. There are some spikes that pop up every now and then. You might run into a boss fight and it's a little bit more challenging, but again, there's just things in the game that I don't remember being in the Super Nintendo version that make it a lot easier to play. Like if one of your allies is down, they will get a turn where you can switch someone else from your back row into the party. Again, the combo meter that builds up like that's making your attacks more effective, and then you can use the super attack. Every combination of three characters, Bowser, Peach, Mallow, Geno, and Mario. Every different combination of three yields a different super meter attack. So it's kind of fun to bring in different ones. When you have Peach, they're a little bit more defensive or healing oriented. Mallow, Geno, and Mario, it's specifically a single target attack, so it's a good one to use on bosses. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely feeling very nostalgic playing this. I hate to call it a remake; it feels more like a remaster. Like this is strictly like a visual, audio kind of upgrade rather than strictly gameplay. Like the gameplay, if anything tells you that it's the same, the script is the same. The script is like 100% the same, aside from a couple name changes. It's funny to like be reminded of like, or get into a scene and be like, I know what this character is going to say next, and it's kind of corny, and like you do have that a little bit of a vague memory, and then it comes out exactly the same way, and you're kind of a little bit like, oh, they didn't change that at all. Like, okay, I'm not complaining about it. It's like I still love this game. It's just funny. I maybe expected a little bit more to be going on under the hood. But yeah, for what it is, like if you've never played this game, I do still think it's a fantastic RPG. It's very short for an RPG. Like this is an 8 to 12 hour RPG, right? Like even if you are really taking your time, the dungeon areas outside the towns aren't very large. Enemies, because you don't get into a battle with them unless you encounter them kind of walking around. There are no random encounters. Enemies can be avoided pretty easily. You don't really need to grind, so for that reason, there's not a lot of reason to get into extra encounters. There are again a couple more things added to this version that I don't think were Super Nintendo version. Apparently, in the end game, you can refight the bosses. So I'm looking forward to getting to that. I'll have more to talk about that later too. David, what have you been saying about this game online? I know a bunch of people we know have been playing it and enjoying it for sure, but I don't know what buzz you've kind of been picking up on.
Well, the thing I heard was that it was extremely easy, and I think that was one of the things that turned me off initially. Was like, oh, like if the difficulty is that low, I don't know if this is something I want to play right now. The second thing that turned me off was that Square Enix wasn't the one working on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost funny in the sense of Nintendo wouldn't even say who the developer was for the
Yeah.
longest time. Like I know there's some controversy online. I think it was like Rebecca Valentine was trying to figure out, who the developer was, and basically had to, like, no one would say anything, and you had to finish the game to see the end credits to find
Yeah.
out it was
Yeah.
Art Piazza, I guess, or
That's right. Yeah.
and that also might be the reason behind why nothing's changed. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I want, like, obviously, I'm guessing Nintendo probably said, handed them the reins and said, "Here, make us a new Super Mario RPG, but you're not
Yeah.
allowed to change anything." Like, which is, I don't know, because when you look at some of the remakes that Square's doing, like, it's not just like you said, it's not just a new fresh coat of paint and here's the same experience. Like, they seem to be trying to I know not every title is getting like this huge makeovers, like
Hmm.
Final Fantasy VII or Star Ocean, or the upcoming Dragon Quest 3 or whatever. But it seems like they're I don't know. Square doesn't seem, for some of these titles at least, they don't seem like just copying the exact same game from before is enough. Like they
Yeah.
seem to be wanting to add something. Like even the pixel remasters, like the Final Fantasy 6, they added in a full orchestra of
Hmm.
for the opera and stuff, like where they, something like that, where you're almost tempted to not change anything.
Yeah,
Like,
because it's already so fantastic, and everyone remembers it a certain way.
and everyone's gonna flip out if you actually do any.
Yeah.
So like I could see, like, you had incentive just to leave it the way it was, but you're still like, no, we can make it better and we can do it without making everyone mad.
Hmm. The funny thing about Art Piazza is they've worked on a lot of games that I think we like, or at least that we've played. Right, Dragon Quest 11, S, Echoes of an Elusive Age. They worked on, it looks like, specifically the 2D mode, which I played the game through in, and I thought that was great. Romantic Saga 3 and 2, both games that I was very interested in, especially Romantic Saga 3. I think the DS, one of the DS versions of an original Dragon Quest game, I think Dragon Quest 4, Dragon Quest 5 as well, it looks like these are well made ports, but they are ports, they are versions, they are kind of not, full titles, I guess. So this seems to be like their biggest undertaking. So I wonder if this is like their opportunity to maybe do something more major down the line. It is, again, more visual, a little bit of gameplay adjustments. But if this game does well, I could see Art Piazza getting more, maybe a bigger project down the line after if this one can be successful. So
Yeah.
you got to do those litmus test kind of things, right? You have to, like, a smaller studio like that. Maybe they've been around for a long time, but they haven't really had the reins to take on something major necessarily. So this could be their opportunity for sure.
Yeah, well, and the funny thing too is like, I'm like looking at their list. They've almost worked exclusively with Square Enix titles,
Hmm.
so it's
Hmm.
like, but as far as I can tell, Square Enix wasn't involved with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Super Mario RPG remake. Like the Nintendo's seems to be the publisher, and so it doesn't seem like they've put their hands on it at all. So it's funny
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
like, is this Art Piazza branching out on its own now, or is it just a thing where Nintendo is like, well, these guys have worked on Square Enix games before and they seem to know their stuff, so we'll just give it to them, sort of thing. Like,
I mean,
it's
that makes sense, right? That they know they've worked with Square Enix properties before. Let's give them another one, but then working more closely with Nintendo this time. I could see that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. We'll talk about the game more. I mean, I do want to finish it. And probably end up completing most of the side stuff, and then maybe we'll revisit Super Mario RPG at another time. But I am into it. I am kind of progressing through it pretty quickly, and there's still a lot of fondness for that game.
Yeah.
Finding my way, forging my road. Give me a sign, I'm going home. Back on the road, back to my home. Broken inside, where do I go? Finding my way, forging my road. Give me a sign, I'm going
So I got a couple Game Pass games, as I alluded to in the intro. One that one that I don't know if I'm going to play much more of it. I'll start with this one. So it's Persona 5 Tactica. So this is a day one Game Pass game, and this is basically a tactics version of Persona 5. So it's got all the same characters, as well as a new original character called Arena. I think I pronounced it right. Arena, Erina. I've heard them say the name, but it still like goes in one ear and out the other.
Hmm.
But it's supposed to be, from what I can tell, it's like a 30 to 40 hour game. I think I'm about 7 or 8 hours. Oh, maybe not that much. Maybe 5 or 6 hours into the game, because I would say that I'm nearing the end of what I assume is going to be the first dungeon of a few. Like, so there's, I guess the kind of general overview is it's funny because there's a lot of times where the characters just kind of dismiss what's going on, like, oh well, things are happening. What can you do? But it's the group. It takes place after the events of Persona 5, and the team is kind of hanging out in LeBlanc, and all of a sudden they're just sucked into this universe, which is not the metaverse necessarily, or
Hmm.
whatever they call the. Well, I can't remember what they call the. I think it's metaverse, but they're not in the world they're usually in. So that's kind of the explanation as to why their personas aren't working like the way they should. Like Joker
Hmm.
doesn't have the ability to take on any demons. Like it's just Arsene, and you can there's a sub equip. You can have two personas at any given time, but one has to be Arsene. And they're dropped into this. It's almost like Tokyo. It's like this little kingdom with all these. So there's all these buildings, and they're surrounded by a castle. And the character is this. It's very reminiscent of the Persona 5 bosses, where it's a woman, and it's not clear who she is, if she's like some kind of real life person, and it's a personification of their attitude or something. But
Right.
she's this woman who wants to get married, and the game starts off with they get dropped into this area, and she brainwashes everyone but Joker and Morgana, and so it's just the two of them, and Arena comes to save those two from being brainwashed as well, and basically the entire first dungeon is just you uh, trying to get your friends back, like trying to break
Okay.
the spell that this demon has over them. So I've been going through different levels, and I think I've probably played about 10 or so. But uh, the best comparison I can make for this game is like Mario Rabbids, but less
Hmm.
interesting, because it's like so it's basically the same thing. It's like you're on a little battlefield. There's characters. You can do physical attack. You can use your gun, or you can use your persona. The persona has like the magic meter, so you can only do so many so many moves per match. They're kind of team attack or whatever, is if you knock someone down, the three characters can form a triangle around the down character, and everyone
Right. I
else
remember
that's
that.
within that triangle will also be hit with this attack. And so it's all right. The tactics part is fine. Like there is demon fusing, sort of.
Hmm.
The demons are collected by gears that you find out and about, but they don't tell you you're collecting the gears. So they explain the tutorial of like, okay, here's how you fuse a demon, and it's because like I had two gears or whatever, and each gear represented a demon. So then I fused one, and I'm like, all right, I guess I got nothing else to do. So I went a few levels, and I'm like, I'm not getting any of these gears. What's going on? And then I
Hmm.
went back, and I had like 10 demons in my inventory for some reason.
Oh gosh.
So I'm like, it would have been nice if somebody had told me that the you just randomly pick these things up.
Hmm.
So I do a little bit of demon fusion. Lavenza gets sucked in, like there's a velvet room. She doesn't know why they're there, but she's helping defuse demons. The main big nose man whose names escape me, he's not there though.
Igor.
Igor, yeah, he's
Yeah.
which makes sense because Igor's voice actor passed away. But
Hmm.
I don't know, the environments are pretty bland. Like there's really nothing. Like there's a few obstacles to kind of hide behind on the battlefield, but the battlefield itself, like when I think of Persona, you think of like how like the dungeons are so stylistic. Like you see all this neat architecture and all these like crazy designs and everything, and then you play Tactica, and it's like, well, there's some bricks, there's a flower, and oh, you're hiding behind boxes. Like
Hmm.
there's nothing really to look at. Like the UI looks nice, and, and the menus
Of
and
course, yes,
transitions are nice.
as it would if they didn't change
Yeah,
anything, it just kept it kind
music's
of the
good.
same. Yeah,
So
yeah.
you got that, but I don't know that I'm just not feeling the aesthetics in world.
Hmm.
And the game's pretty easy too. Like it's not. I haven't really come across any real difficulty yet. I'm just playing on the normal mode. I guess I could have turned her up, but I'm playing the way that the devs intended. That's how I
Yes,
put it.
yes.
So
Now, did you play Persona 5 Strikers, or is this your first kind of taste of like this Persona 5 spin-offs?
no, this is my first Persona 5 spinoff.
Yeah, because I know people liked Strikers. I couldn't get into that either, and I'm concerned that I might not be able to get into this game either. I was gonna pick it up a little bit later, but it sounds like it's just a little bit empty and maybe
Yeah.
lacking some of that charm. And yeah, I don't need another tactics game. I think there's so many that I've kind of not completed as much as I could. So to pick up to add another one to the pile that maybe isn't doing a ton of special stuff, and maybe not something I want to get into. I do want to hear Paige's thoughts. I think she is playing this game as well, so I'll check in with her as well and see how her playthrough is going.
It's just kind of fine, I guess would be
Yeah,
the
yeah,
like I'm glad it's on Game Pass because like I wouldn't say spend $90 on this, but I
sure.
mean if you've already spent 15 and you got Game Pass, it's worth giving it a go.
Yeah, give it a try. Sure.
But speaking of Game Pass, one game I did enjoy and I just finished up, I think it was about a 7-ish, 8-hour-ish playthrough, was the RPG Thirsty Suitors. I had kind of heard about it. I think I might have seen some trailer in a direct or a Sony State of Play or something, because I know it's on other platforms. But it was again a day one Xbox game, and I was blown away. I couldn't. I like this is. I joke that it's like one of the few time based attack games that I actually enjoy. Like I fell off Sea of Stars because partly because I just having to time everything is just grates on my nerves. It just kind of takes me out of it. But it's a very similar. It's not. I guess the battle system's not similar, but it does have a lot of like hit A at this point, hit X at this point. So it's
Hmm.
so I guess I would say I'm putting up with it. But yeah, the whole point of the game is you play as the main character Jala, and she has kind of an inner monologue that's in her brain but it's manifested as her sister. So she kind of has this voice in her head that's helping her cope with the situation she's in this where it's so she's I guess she's like in between high school and college. Like high school's over and she should be in college, but she doesn't know if she really wants to be there. And she's from this small town, and she's from an Indian family, so there's like this a lot of cultural like family ties and stuff that's
Hmm.
intertwined in the story. But basically, what it is that she was like kind of a turd in high school, where she dated a bunch of people and broke all their hearts, and then kind of left town with this other girl, and disappointed, like just kind of left everyone high and dry. So they were all kind of like heartbroken that she just didn't want to cut off all contact with them. And the game starts off with her on a bus back into town because the girl she ran away with broke up with her.
Hmm.
So it's pretty much the entire game is just kind of her going back to meet these old exes of hers, and basically uh, kind of burying the hatchet, I guess, like
Yeah.
explaining, you know, what happened, like her side of the story back in the day, and coming to terms with the fact that she didn't handle any of it well. And so
Sounds a
there's like,
little bit like the anti Scott Pilgrim or something like that, with
yeah,
going back to all the X's, right?
yeah. Well, it is a good comparison because
Mm.
it's very stylistic too. Like the first guy she runs into is like this guy that it was, I think it was like a grade school crush or something. And she didn't even really date him, but this guy has had a crush on her
Yeah,
forever.
yeah.
And he's like this exaggerated, like he's ripped and he's got all these crazy clothes and he's like a dance instructor now. And they have this battle, like, so all the battles are kind of like a psychodrama, they call them, where it's like it's clearly like happening in their mind sort of thing. So they turn into these crazy, like, larger than life, it's almost persona-ish in the sense where they have these new powers in this other realm or whatever that they go to when they fight. And then at the end of the fight, like they make up, and then you kind of develop the relationship as you go on. Like, the first guy you kind of come to terms with will have different quests that you do along the way as you're coming to terms with the rest. And there's like one main person that she dated on and off like a few times, that's kind of like the end. and I won't. I didn't really see the final boss coming. I guess I should have. But the character that it is it's not who I thought it was going to be, and I don't know if I should spoil it because it was kind of a neat like that's neat, and it was a very heartwarming finale.
I mean, I think this game kind of just
So
came out as well, so I think we can a little more
yeah, I don't
time
want to.
pass before.
Yeah, like it's only been out a couple weeks, and I don't even know if it's been that long really because I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
I played it pretty quick. And yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of people discovering how good this game
Mhm,
is because
mhm.
the fights again, the difficulty's on the lower end. Like I never really had any difficulty, especially as the game goes on, because like you are leveling up, and I found it got easier as time went on.
Yeah. I mean,
Because you
it
have,
doesn't
you know,
seem, 'cause just from looking at it and hearing a little bit more about it, that it's meant necessarily for like hardcore RPG fans, right? Like it's
yeah,
definitely kind of doing something a little bit more unique or novel with and just those mechanics are part of it.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely about the story, I would say, because there's all that, but then she's also a skateboarder, so there's like a Tony Hawk esque
Hmm.
version. Like everywhere you go, you're going by skateboard, and there's like a very simplistic trick system where like you're grinding and doing all the tricks and stuff. And then I didn't really get into it, but there's like a point based system where you can take on people too, in these like scoreboards, high score things for the skateboard skills, which I don't know. It was fine. Like it was fun to play it, but I don't think I would devote any time to it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was definitely like the humor was hilarious. Like this game is just I was laughing all the time. Like
Hmm.
it's hilarious. And there's like there's like there's all the subplot of like connecting with the youth in town too, because they're like younger siblings of the people she had things with, so like they don't like the young people don't like her either. So there's also this like animosity between her and these young kids and stuff, which has like hilarious results. And there's this guy who's like trying to start a cult with all these young kids, and he wears like this old bear costume, so you never
Hmm.
like see his face or anything. And the summons, there's like persona style summons, but they're her family. Like she has a summon where she summons her mom, and the mom like grows like kaiju size and like
Oh
hits someone
yes.
with her sandal. And then her aunt is like a fitness guru, so you could call her in, and she like gives you buffs and stuff. Like you do this workout thing montage.
Hmm.
Like there's just so many details in it that are incredible, and like a very colorful game. Like I really dig the graphics and everything, and the music was fantastic. So
I mean, if this game flew under anyone's radar in again in November, that's entirely possible because there have been some big games that did come out, and some good smaller ones too. This is probably one people want to go back to or make sure they don't you kind of let it pass them by without taking a closer look for sure.
yeah, so yeah, this is definitely worth it, especially if you have Game Pass. Like
Hmm.
it's worth it. Like it's like I said, I think it was about 7 or 8 hour playthrough, and there was still some stuff that I could have done. Like I did some most of the suitor side quests, so a lot of the story stuff I got, but I like I said, there's like a few skateboard related things, and I think there's a couple subplots with a couple smaller characters that I didn't do that I could have. But and then the whole time, like there's no random encounters, but there's like the the kind of like minions or whatever, the smaller battles that you fight, or your the character's grandma has put your profile on like a I don't know, like some kind of matchmaking thing. So
Yes,
there's
yes.
these men that are coming to the city trying to make her their wife.
Oh gosh.
And so so she's fighting these suitors. Like I guess that's where the name comes from, right? The thirsty suitors, because they're like these guys that are like, oh my god, you look way better than the profile. And she's like, what? She's like, my grandmother did what? And
Sounds very contemporary. Like this does feel like yeah, something that could happen in 2023, right?
yeah, oh, cooking mini games, and every like every day ends with Jala going back to her house to she watches TV with her dad, and then her dad like carries her to bed. Like there's so many family stuff that's really sweet and just
I'm
a
getting a
great
bit of
game.
Earthbound from you kind of describing the family a little bit, right? Like the family kind of having this pivotal role for the main character.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then even the exes that she comes to terms with, like if you there's other side quests that you can do for them, and if you max out their relationship, then they become like persona like summons. So
Nice.
which have their own hilarious animations and stuff. Like it's great. But yeah, definitely would recommend it to anybody.
Hmm.
But before we get to our game of the year discussion, I was taking a look at December, and it's looking kind of bleak. And that was before the 11-bit Studios game that I was looking forward to got delayed to February. But I've never played this game, but it seems like the biggest game that's likely coming out in December is probably going to be Dragon Quest Monsters.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Jordan, why don't you? I know you. I don't. You said you hadn't played the demo, but if you know, like even like a general overview, what kind of game this is.
Sure.
Quick
So
synopsis.
I have played a Dragon Quest Monsters game before, maybe even two of them. So when I got my Pocket, analog Pocket, I ended up playing Dragon Quest Monsters 1 and 2. Played a little bit more of 2, probably put about 10 or 15 hours and never finished it, but I did enjoy my time with it. So think of like Dragon Quest crossed with Pokemon. And then I guess maybe leaning a little bit more towards the Pokemon side rather than gyms or anything like that. There is kind of a main story that you're going through. Maybe some great evil has kind of come to the land and they're trying to take over, and you're trying to collect these monsters so that you can fight them. I don't know a lot about this third. I guess they're considering it. This is Dragon Quest Monsters 3, I think. The subtitle is The Dark Prince, so they did drop the number, which makes sense given that this is a series that's kind of maybe been, not either flying under the radar or just hasn't had an entry in a long time, maybe since the DS, unless there were some 3DS games that I don't know about or maybe didn't leave Japan. But yeah, December 1st, so we're pretty close to this one, Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince. There is a demo now. People can check that out, see if it strikes their fancy. There hasn't been a lot from the screenshots and videos that we've seen that's totally sold me on this game. I don't think it looks particularly great. And the truth is, after Infinity Strash, one of the worst games I played this year, I'm a little bit apprehensive about another Dragon Quest spin-off. And I with full confidence, I think this one will be better, just because I think that the Dragon Quest Monsters games are pretty fun. Just their loop is an interesting one, I think, especially if you're into Pokemon. But I am a little bit more hesitant, I guess, with anything that's not a mainline Dragon Quest game. I do need to kind of see this and see what impressions are and reviews are before I pick it up. I have downloaded the demo. I've been hoping to pick it up. It just hasn't happened yet. But if it is anything like the first two Dragon Quest Monsters games, I think were on on Game Boy or Game Boy Color. Like those are enjoyable. They're fun. I know there were some other spin-offs, maybe on Game Boy Advance and stuff. It's not a series I'm intimately familiar with, but I do respect these games. I like the idea of going back to some of the old ones. So I'm hoping for the best for this one. A December 1st release doesn't always bode well. It does feel like it's kind of a game you're just kind of putting out there. Obviously, they don't want Square Enix doesn't want this game to come out in January because that's when Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 is coming out. So that's obviously going to be the talk of the town for the start of 2024. So this feels like one you're just kind of just getting out there. But if it scores above like a 7 or 7.5 average, I think that's good, and would still be one I'd be interested in giving a go. So yeah, we'll see. David, I don't know where you stand on this one. If it's one you're picking up at all or looking at a little bit more closely.
So far, it's going to be wait for a sale.
Wait for
I
Game Pass or a sale. Yeah.
to see it. Yeah, like it just I don't know. I'm not sure. I heard somebody talking about like, and I guess you could tell me like the characters like it is Pokemon related, but you don't actually get to pick the moves, right?
So that's true, and that was true of the games that I've played as well. The characters kind of do maybe one of two or three moves. I'm trying to think if there's any way to change or sway that in any way. No, I
That
don't
kind of
think
turned me
so.
off a bit when I heard that. So that's why I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, maybe like it's Square, so I'll probably pick it up eventually, but I'll probably just wait for a sale.
It's an obligation buy for you, not
Yeah.
not a
Square
choice.
Enix was really testing my obligation buys with that Adventures of Die.
Oh gosh, yeah. Ugh. Did that one
I
not
haven't
come to?
paid money for that yet.
Did that
So.
come to Game Pass? Like that felt like
No, no. The Square, I don't know if it sounds like there's some kind of deal like Microsoft might be working towards some kind of a bigger Square partnership, but it's not there yet. Like there's still not that many games available from Square on Game Pass. So
yeah. I mean, I know they did some of the old Final Fantasies, right? I thought that might be the first domino to get
yeah.
more of them on there, or other series that they work on Game Pass as well. But I guess they're still in progress with that
Well,
kind of plan.
the last I heard was like there was that thing with Phil Spencer where I think like Final Fantasy 14 is going to be on Xbox Series X.
Mm-hmm.
And they were alluding to like this is the beginning of like a new partnership or something, but
That would
it's
be
like
big. Yeah, that'd be really big.
it's not the first time we've heard that though,
Well, I
so.
mean, to be fair, I guess he's been so busy with the acquisition of Blizzard Activision, or Activision Blizzard, that now that that's finally done, I imagine Phil probably has more time for other partnerships or other deals to happen. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So the one game I was going to look forward to was, I don't even know how to pronounce this game, but it's called Thaumaturge. Thaumaturge.
Thaumaturge. It's THAU. So
Yes.
have at it. Have at that beginning spelling of a word. That's a
Yeah.
tough one even for me.
That one's for Rich. This is a story-driven RPG. It seems like, I don't know if there's like a whole lot of. It seems like you just kind of make choices, and it kind of leads to a story. But it looks kind of neat, and I like 11-bit studio games. But the problem is that they've delayed it to the week before Final Fantasy VII Rebirth,
Oh
and
no.
that's, you might as well just like, that's a death sentence.
Yeah. Why? Why?
Like I know they wanted to clean it up and make it good, but like that's just a bad time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's difficult, right? Because obviously you do want to delay a game, and you don't want to delay it too far, because then you've got all these people excited for it. And I suppose it's a little more CRPG ish, right? So it is going to have its own separate audience, I suppose. But yeah,
Yeah.
any type of RPG, you probably don't want to put it up against a Final Fantasy, let alone like a big name one.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last game, just looking forward to December, and these are all kind of early December releases. I wouldn't be surprised where they were, I suppose. I don't know if we're going to get any more games announced. It's possible Game Awards sees a shadow drop or two, something around there. That's early December as well. But the last game, Born of Bread. So Born of Bread is a 2D ish kind of RPG, 2.5D kind of RPG. Very much just Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. Right. That's what this game is. With the same type of humor, the really really nice visual style. A little bit. I mean, it still has that papercraft element to it, but just kind of, I was playing it on my on Steam for a demo. You can read my demo impressions on Nintendo World Report. Kind of published those a few weeks ago, but yeah, December 5th for Born of Bread. I think fans of Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door will dig it for sure. It seems to be doing a lot of the same things. The demo that I played is only a couple hours, so I don't know how things are going to go. The combat felt a little bit slow to me, but the characters in the world seem really interesting, and it's one of those ones where you kind of want to talk to everybody because the humor is definitely there. So if the console ports are good, and it's able to maybe generate some good buzz and good reviews around launch, that will be one to keep an eye on for sure.
Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to wrap up the episode with our just kind of preliminary Game of the Year discussion. So I know the topic has become contentious and the debates have gotten ugly. So this year at the Thirsty Mage, instead of doing the rank list, which I think we've done in the past, uh, we've just decided that no, instead of like ranking the games, we're just going to say, here's our top 10 games for the year. These were the ones that stood out. I'm sure some of us have them ranked in different orders than others, but essentially we were kind of in agreement that these ones stood out among the rest.
We've all
And
had a say in like what these 10 games are going to be, and we didn't
yeah,
all have to agree on them. But like I think there's like an element of like, yeah, you can see that, I understand
yeah.
that, I see why you put
And
that on
I should probably say up front, they're not all RPGs. We're going with the top 10 video games.
there. Mm-hmm.
So
Just
Jordan,
mostly RPGs, as you might
yeah,
expect.
that's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, like we're not gonna get too deep into this. Maybe just to mention, we'll talk about it for a quick minute. But the two games that we're ready to announce are Final Fantasy 16 and Diablo 4. So Jordan, why don't you tell us why Diablo 4 should have been on this 10,
Sure.
10 game list?
Yeah, I think Diablo 4 is easily a top 10 game of this year for sure. Very long awaited, right? This is a game people have been waiting years for, almost a decade for. The gameplay is rock solid. Like it is super fun to play. Just going through the story from like level 1 to 50 or 60 or something like that is very enjoyable. The cinematics are excellent. The skill trees are interesting. The ability to kind of change up your build, change up how your character plays, like it's all very kind of just easy to do, very accessible, approachable. It's rolling a new character. The seasonal play feels like they are building something that can be enjoyable for years to come. So I think that fact that this game is going to have some staying power. It sounds like we're getting the. We talked about this a little bit. We were kind of Casey and I were kind of guessing when is the expansion going to come. It sounds like they're aiming for the end of next year. So potentially a new class, a new area. It looks like we're going back to an area from Diablo 2, which is really cool. The jungles of Karast, I think it's called, which I believe is Act 3. So that's really fun to kind of go do another blast from the past kind of thing, which Diablo as a series seems to be known for. Right? They do revisit old areas and old characters and stuff like that. So yeah, I think the fact that this game around launch, like people were playing it to the point of being burned out, right? Like you were so into it that you just kind of got sick of it. And I don't think that's the game's fault necessarily. I think that it's just kind of the way that people can consume things nowadays is,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take a week off. I'm going to take a weekend. I'm going to play 30 hours this weekend. Like, I don't know that that's super healthy, but I think it does speak to how engaged you are with this product, and it's up to the people making Diablo 4 to find a way to keep people coming back to it. And again, so far with the seasonal content, season 1 maybe wasn't a big hit, but season 2 seems to have captured people's attention and they are doing good things. This week, in fact, they've got a bonus EXP event, so you can get 35% extra experience points and gold from just from playing this week. So I'm hopping on tomorrow. I've been playing kind of pretty regularly every Wednesday and Sunday for the last few weeks, and may do something similar going into the upcoming seasons. Yes, there's a battle pass. You don't need it. I think that it just adds kind of cosmetic value if you like that kind of thing. I don't know if the end game is good, but I don't care. Like for me, like this game doesn't have to be like a get to level 100 and there's so many fun things to do. Like, does a game after 100 plus hours have to be fun anymore? Like, I don't know that. I think you've got your value. I think you've got your money's worth, right? You've spent your $60 or $70 and you're not forced to pay for the online necessarily, right? I suppose you are if you're playing on PlayStation or Xbox, but yeah, I think Diablo 4 is just a lot of fun, very solid, polished, enjoyable. It's a world that I kind of keep going back to, and playing different characters still feels engaging to me. I'm still having moments with this game, particularly in multiplayer, where like we're trying to take down a really hard boss, and you get it down to that sliver of health, and then it knocks you out, and you're just like crushed. So it's still producing those fun RPG dopamine fueled kind of moments for us. So yeah, Diablo 4 definitely one of the best games of 2023 for sure.
Yeah, and for Final Fantasy 16, so that was definitely me pushing that one. One of my favorite games this year. I won't get too detailed because we've had at least 3 episodes that I can remember on the game. Probably more than that. I can only recall
I
3 of
mean,
them.
that's traditional for a new Final Fantasy game. Like, just wait till Rebirth comes out next year. Probably
Yeah,
have, you know,
be like
6
8 in a
months.
row.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
right.
but I would say that Final Fantasy 16 may not have been the game everyone wanted, but it was the one PS5 needed. It was a visual treat. It showed just what the PS5 could do. Music was incredible. Performances were incredible. It's a game you have to feel. I don't think it's a thinking game. It's a feeling game. So if you like destroying crap, killing everything that moves, the things that I take dear and near to my heart, it did everything, all those things well. It was running on pure adrenaline the entire game. It had a bit of an abrupt ending if you were only, like you said, like when you were 30 40 hours in. The journey was the fun, and the only problem I had with the ending was not knowing it was the ending. If I had to realize like
Mm.
this whole sequence of events was the ending, then I probably it wouldn't have felt as abrupt as it did. But yeah, I have to say Yoshi P did a good job, and looking forward to what Yoshi P is going to bring to us next and with Square Enix.
Do you think that this is the direction that they're going to be going for Final Fantasy 17? Goodness knows when that's coming, but is it going to be a little bit more action focused? Are they going to kind of maybe, in response to some of the commentary about this game, like maybe go back more to the RPG side? Or is that just the domain of the remakes? Maybe like all the remakes are going to try to maintain a turn-based element, and then the mainline games they're going to keep experimenting with action combat.
I think they're going to stick with the same action combat, but I think one of the things that turned people off was that the leveling up was inconsequential. Like
Yeah.
it really didn't mean anything. Like the numbers just didn't mean anything. So we might see them go back to like a more defined skill tree. But I think Final Fantasy is always going to be an action game now. It's just the way the youngins want it.
Yeah. Fair.
Like
Yeah.
when you look at all the biggest games like Spider-Man and Ragnarok, God of War, there, like these are all the way these big games are going. Like it's also what Sony wants, and they have this very deep partnership with them now. So
Yeah, I mean, it can't be understated the fact that this being a console exclusive, you feel like whoever whoever has that right to release the game, like they're going to maybe dictate a little bit about what it looks like, or you're going to expect that it's similar to other games on that platform, and so therefore it being maybe a better fit or something like that.
yeah,
I think there was some chatter about the game maybe underperforming or not. Maybe Square Enix, they always have the highest like expectations
yeah.
for these games. It's ridiculous.
If it's not
No
the greatest,
game.
the number one selling game of all time, it did not perform well.
Name a game that's lived up to their expectations in the last 3 years. Like maybe remake. I don't even know.
Maybe,
Like, yeah,
yeah.
it's very tough to appease their numbers, guys. But yeah, this is a game where I every time I see this game on sale, and there are some kind of deep, like almost 50% discounts for Black Friday, I'm super tempted. I'm just like, I can't yet. I still have all the other games to play, but like through gritted teeth, I've been saying no to this game lately. But I'm getting. I know that I'm getting close to picking it up and trying it. Hopefully over the holiday break, or maybe before remake part 2 comes out,
Christmas
I'll be
gift.
able to.
Put it on your wish list.
Yeah, it would be a good Christmas gift to get, and maybe play around New Year's time. That'd be fun. So, yeah, I'm excited. I've heard you kind of sing the praises of this game, David, and it has become more interesting to me for that reason. And I think I just need to see what all the buzz is about. You said it's a feel game, so I guess it's one where you kind of have to just do it yourself to know how you feel about it.
You have to feel Clive's rage.
Yes, that's right.
Yep.
So I think that'll take us to the end of this episode, where we shared some thoughts on November games that have come out that we're probably going to talk about in more detail soon. The maybe lighter December that we're not 100% sure about what that's going to be. Hoping for the best for Dragon Quest Monsters and Born of Bread, and then Thaumaturge when that comes out early next year. And happy to reveal the first 2 games out of our 10 here for our the Thirsty Mage Game of the Year, Diablo 4 and Final Fantasy 16. 8 more to come. Those are going to pop up in episodes kind of in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for those. But yeah, I'm curious what Game of the Year is always a fun time because you get to see like what other outlets have been maybe really really enjoying, or you always get to find like a couple hidden gems that no one really talked about, but then it comes out in a Game of the Year discussion, and then everyone's like, oh well, how do we miss this game, how do we miss this game? There's also the fact that we're almost at the end of November here, moving into December. The Game Awards time of year is also kind of fun. The event, the Keeley event, that is. There's always some interesting announcements, and I don't know about you, David. I am very curious to see Grand Theft Auto 6. I think just that they've earned that. I think from the industry, they've earned that attention. Though all the accolades and sales of Grand Theft Auto 5 were just ridiculous. So
I was in Best
finally seeing
Buy
6.
this weekend and saw someone buying Grand Theft Auto 5 on PS4 and
Yep,
thought,
yep.
what?
Like how does it can you continue to sell even on the previous gen consoles? Is kind of mind-boggling.
Brand new boxed copy of PS4 Grand Theft Auto 5.
It's probably pretty close to retail price too. I don't know how much they'd ended up dropping the price if they're still selling, but yeah. So yeah, that'll do it for this episode. Thanks everybody for listening. Again, this is just kind of the start of the Game of the Year discussion for us. 2 entries down, 8 more to go. If you haven't already, you can find my book, A Game in the Life. You can find the links to that on the Thirsty Mage website. Check it out there. Or on social media. Again, we're on Amazon. We're on Google Play Books now. If you have picked it up, I'd love if you left like kind of a review or rating on Goodreads or wherever you picked it up. That would be awesome. And yeah, we'll have another episode of Thirsty Mage for you next week. Bye for now.
Bye.